Good evening, everyone. Yep. Hang on. Okay, much better. All right. Thanks for coming out to tonight's meeting of ANC 34G. It's a regular scheduled meeting. We have a lot on the agenda. And just to say in advance, we have been running behind our meetings pretty much ever since we've been back in the community center. The staff that work for the community center have to leave no later by 9. They have to be out the door. The gentleman that works here has transportation that comes right at that time. If he misses that, we delay his ride home at least by a half hour to an hour. So I am going to call the meeting between 8:30 and 8:45. I want everybody to keep, their comments concise. Let's remain polite, but let's really keep in mind that we do not have this facility until 9 o'clock. We have to be out of this facility by 9 so that staff can get home. Okay, so with that, I call the meeting to order, 7:04. Did you want to go before commissioner introductions?
We continue to work on technology, and most importantly, that means trying to do something about feedback. And Kent Bass, who is the director of the Office of OANC's downtown, is with us, lurking in the back. And you can hear we've actually made some improvements here, but we're still working on it. So most important to the effort to avoid feedback, commissioners, if you have a computer, you have to turn off all sound on the computer. In addition, you have to be cautious talking into this and turn off your mic when you're not talking. And we think that'll solve the problem. Yeah, you're right. Lisa, you have your mic on. And so let's just see if that solves the problem. It reduces it some. Okay. And finally, we are trying to schedule a second meeting on the very subjects many of the subjects we're dealing with tonight. Of course, we can't get anything quite right, and we scheduled it for the first night of Hanukkah, so we're trying to move it to the day before. We will let you know on the listserv and other social media as soon as we get that straightened out. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll start with commissioner introductions from Commissioner Lynch and on down this way.
Hi, I'm Peter Lynch. I'm the commissioner for SMD 05. Thank you for being here.
Turn it off. I'm Jim Nash, and I'm the commissioner for Single Member District 03.
I'm Peter Goslin, and I'm commissioner for District 6, which is largely the west side of Connecticut Avenue.
Good evening, I'm Commissioner Gore. My single member district is 34G01, which is all of Hawthorne and portions of Barnaby Woods up until Pinehurst Circle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zach Ferguson. I represent single member district 07, and I'm also the ANC treasurer.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bruce Sherman. Single member district 02 is what I represent. I want to welcome a number of my constituents whom I see out in the crowd tonight. Thanks for being here.
And let the record reflect that we do have a quorum. Commissioner Zeldin, I don't know if you are online. He's out? He's coming? Okay, great. All right, we do have a quorum.
Is he online?
No, he's coming. Yeah, he'll be here. So I kind of discussed some of the meeting procedures in advance. We ask that online folks, if you have a question, put your question in the chat or raise your hand. People that are here in person, if you would go to the mic when it's time for the audience to speak. I ask that everyone understand the rule to be recognized by the chair before speaking, and that everyone be courteous to the timeframes that we're asking folks to speak, and to the people in the audience with different viewpoints than yours. And Commissioner Zeldin, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm sorry I'm late, but my mom has stage 4 colon cancer and we're dealing with medical issues tonight. I am Michael Zeldin. I represent 3G04.
Commissioners, do you have any changes to the agenda? One thing that we did want to do to accommodate the schedule and get as many speakers in advance is to have the discussion on the ANC survey proceed, the bioretention cells. I know we have a lot of folks here too for the bioretention cells, but we can get through both. But I think having this discussion on the civic core survey is what most people are here for. So I would ask that the commission agree to that change in the agenda. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that passes unanimously. All right. And on the consent agenda, Jim just mentioned that the November 13th meetings were not provided. Jim, can you explain that, where we are in the minutes?
Yeah. We have the minutes for the final meeting on October, and those were sent around on November 13. And so those are the minutes which should be on the consent agenda. The November 13 minutes are not completed yet.
I would ask that the commission, if we can leave minute approval off for the October and just do all of them at the end of December, if that's okay with the commission. Okay. And this portion of the agenda is a resident forum where we allow the residents 15 minutes to ask the ANC anything that you want to ask us or inquire about that is not on the agenda. So I know sometimes people will bring up an issue and we have it on the agenda and then I'll have to say, you can't talk about it because it's on the agenda. This is for a time for people that want to discuss something that's not on the agenda. Ron, did you, come on.
And Ron, if you could could you turn on the mic? We need to turn it on and off again, trying to
Okay, you
avoid
got it.
feedback.
Okay, that's good. Name is Ron Kahn. I live in the ANC area. I have not necessarily a question, but I'm interested in solar and promoting solar a little bit more. We recently had solar installed on our house. It's a tremendous process. It's very efficient. It's done by the environmental group. And I'm just wondering at some future session, if maybe you can invite them to present the advantages of doing solar to the community. I think it's a wonderful deal. And I'd like it to be on the roof of this building if they could do it, in fact. But I just want to make that aware that it's an excellent process. We went through it. There's many, many advantages in DC that are unique to the nation related to solar. So that's about all I got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. We have a program, I believe, Matt, correct me if it's wrong, Solar for All? I think it's Solar for All, which is a good program. I think that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
It's been silent for like 2 minutes. Is somebody talking and when they have no audio on the online?
I won't
I
start
can
over
hear.
again.
I
Okay,
sent the chat.
so his insurance company said that they were going to cancel his insurance. And there's now some talk about tradesmen boycotting the third ward collectively because of this, unless they get some relief. He's already met with the commander, probably of the second district, who said, I can't help you, I'm understaffed. So there's a problem here where we might start having tradesmen refuse to service our neighborhood.
Really proactive with talking to MPD. I had a meeting at my house where we had some contractors. A couple of them were plumbers, and they said the exact same thing. And they have already started making the decision, which is something that, you know, we would hope we would never get to, of not servicing some parts of DC. There are some parts of DC that they are not going to service. And you're about right. The plumber that I had at my meet and greet was, I think he had been hit like about 7 or 8 times. The other thing that he said, which I think is noteworthy for the community to understand, is they estimated each time they're stolen from, it's about $8,000 to $10,000, I think he said. Now, I don't have heat in a part of my house because my HVAC guy was supposed to come out. My husband was waiting for him last week. We didn't hear from him, and we didn't hear from him because he got robbed. And all his equipment was stolen. So he still has not been able to purchase his equipment and come out and finish his job. But I am going to follow up with MPD because we don't want to hear that, you know, they have a staffing issue. We had a really good meeting with former Commander Branch. And I don't know if you know, there's a new MPD Second District Commander. And I don't know if you've talked to her. Okay. So I'm going to invite her to one of the meetings so that she can, you know, continue to hear from us as a community. We have to, and this is just my opinion, we have to keep pressing them on these issues. It's costing us economically a lot. And these are some safety issues out there. And we don't want it to escalate. So there were some things that one of the assistant chiefs who works in downtown had some great ideas that second district could do that they haven't done. And we want to make sure they do everything they can possibly do. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Yeah. Here.
So one thing that we heard from the police at the meet and greet at Starbucks is that if anybody knows that they have a project coming up at their house, you can give the police a heads up, and that way they know that workers are coming around your house and they might be able to send somebody that way. Another thing that I would like to flag for everyone is that there's currently an audit of staffing but done by the city auditor of DCPD that DCPD does not want done. So I think we all have an opportunity to contact the mayor, contact our council members, and request that that audit of staffing at DCPD be supported. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Oh, sorry.
Is that on?
I can.
Yeah, it's on. It's on.
Oh, it's on. Yes, it's done. It's on. I can see the.
Do you want it on or off? On is good?
Yeah.
Okay, hi, I'm Liz Nagy. I don't see on the agenda, so I think I'm on fair ground talking about this. Councilmember Freeman's legislation. I'd like to see it on an agenda. I'd like to see it discussed and debated. This is the no apartments covenants legislation to eliminate covenants. I have serious concerns about the legality of it. It's coming up for a vote at the DC Council, and can we get it on the agenda or have a special meeting to discuss it here at the ANC before that happens, so we can have our act together?
We talked about, so we got an email this afternoon from Cheryl Barnes. We talked about adding it to our special meeting that's going to be on the 6th now.
Okay.
So we'll add it to the agenda on the 6th.
Okay, that's definitive. It will be on that agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Mhm. Mary Rouse online, and then this gentleman.
Hi, thank you, Lisa. I was just calling, I was just asking if you could discuss the issue of the chat feature in meetings. I sent an email to the commission this evening. It may have been too late for some of you to get it, but I was asking if you could restore the chat for the meeting tonight. I know that last time I brought it up and you said that the commission would discuss it. So are you going to be discussing it tonight? Or are you
I
going
can
to
dis-
restore?
I can discuss it I can tell you real quick. And if you have any questions, we have the director of OANC in here who advised us and will be at some point putting out official policy recommendation advice to ANCs to not allow chats. And they have a good rationale for that, including sticking with Robert's Rules of Order and making sure that the chat or comments in the meeting are directed to the chair. So the advice from OANC is to not use the chat. And when that comes out, we're definitely going to follow their advice on that.
So Lisa, you're okay? You're okay with silencing participants in the meeting? You're okay with that?
That's not what is happening, Mary, and I thank you for your call. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Go on.
Hey, good evening. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Winston Sale and I live on Military Road. This weekend, I received a letter from the Office of Planning stating that my home is to be included in a proposed Chevy Chase Historic District. I'm adamantly opposed to the creation of a historic district, but my comments tonight are limited to a very brief history of this proposal and the ANC's role in the designation process. In 2007, a group named Historic Chevy Chase applied to create a Chevy Chase Historic District, slightly larger than the current proposed district. I'll spare you the details, but the community engagement process at the time was fraught and contentious. Due to the acrimony generated by the 2007 application, as evidenced by the meeting minutes for this ANC in 2007 and 2008, the ANC conducted a survey of residents whose homes would be included in the proposed district. Of the 930 surveys mailed, 51% of the residents responded to the survey. Of those respondents, 77% were opposed and only 23% were in favor of the district. That means 3 out of 4 residents were opposed to creating the district at that time. In November 2008, this ANC voted unanimously on a resolution opposing the historic designation. Ultimately, Historic Chevy Chase withdrew their application to avoid a prejudicial decision against the creation of the district. And now the day has arrived and a new group has recycled the contents of the 2007 application, albeit with a slightly smaller footprint. I very much doubt our community's opinion on this issue has changed dramatically since 2008. I look forward to a robust public discussion on this proposal and expect the ANC to engage the affected residents in the same way and with the same opportunity to share their opinion as occurred in 2008. Thank you.
Commissioner. Can I go back to the comment that Mary Rouse made about opening up the chat function? Is the guidance from the OANC going to be advisory guidance? Obviously, different ANCs could choose to have the chat functions. That just I understand that. Okay.
Is that correct? Advisor?
Just saying, I need to follow my own guidance, right? Use the microphone. As with all things, what we're doing is we're outlining how chat does or does not conform to Robert's Rules of Order, which you are supposed to use. All commissions are supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order and statute. Should the commission choose to not adopt best practices and chart your own course, as with all things, there's very little enforcement that you would have to worry about, but with regards to chat, when you follow Robert's Rules of Order, you recognize a speaker, the speaker then speaks, and then you move on to the next speaker. With chat, there's a lot of crosstalk, and it's akin to a group of people in the back of your room having another loud conversation and not letting you do your business. We're also wrapping it into other virtual guidance that includes when to use the camera, when you can mute people, things like that. These are issues that have come up across ANCs. And we want to make sure that our advice or guidance is consistent across all 46.
So just to follow up quickly, making the use of the chat consistent with Robert's Rules of Order is, in your view, difficult?
Can you ask this question? We're moving on because we're about 22 minutes in. Go on.
We think there's a valid use for chat as far as the commissioners using chat to share information out, URLs, email addresses, things like that. It is inconsistent to let anyone in a room speak at any time on any topic they wish without being recognized by the chair.
Great discussion, and some really good stuff that came up that we will definitely be taking into consideration. But we will definitely have, on the special meeting agenda, the Councilman Fruman legislation, and we will definitely have a schedule for engagement on the historic district. So look out for that stuff. So next, we're going to have a discussion about the Chevy Chase Civic Core site survey. Commissioner Sherman, do you want to give an overview of the results, and then Commissioner Gosselin an overview of your resolution, and have community discussion? So I'd like to hear a lot from the community tonight if we can.
So this would be the second time that we've presented an overview of the results. I know that not everybody attends every ANC meeting, so a bit of redundancy is probably a good thing. On the other hand, I know that there are many who have probably had a chance to take a look at the survey and might be coming tonight with questions. So I know our time is limited. If it would be the preference of those of you in the room and those of you online for me to walk through this very quickly, I'm happy to do that to create a bit of context. If you think you already know the results and wish to jump right into questions, I'm happy to go that route too. So Chair, whichever way we'd like to go as a community, I'm happy to accommodate people. Well, in terms of the questions and so forth, I think the comments, certainly discussion of the results and your questions about the survey, just in my view, should precede talking about a proposed resolution, just to have the facts out on the table, right? Again, I'm happy to kind of walk people through. If we want to do a little share screen, I can give you the results quickly. Does that make sense? Okay.
While you're pulling that up, can you tell us when it was shared publicly before, Mr. Sherman?
Let me address the comment that was just made. We have for over a year been trying to work on acoustics. It does not work for a lot of people in the center. Yes, ma'am. And the people online, which right now we have more folks probably online than in person, can absolutely not hear when we don't use the microphone. So we're trying to accommodate both audiences.
Ma'am.
Come sit up closer to you.
Ma'am, this room is awful to begin with. When we tried to come back, we used to just do an in-person meeting and film it and post the video later. We've only tried to do hybrid meetings, both here and simultaneously online, since coming back from COVID. The room defeats us in many ways, but there are 76 people online right now, and they cannot hear anything that you just said. If you don't go to the mic, the audience, we get heard, but you don't. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot on this one. I understand. The room makes a lot of the mush just on its own.
So I will walk you through the survey results. But before I do that, just a very brief introduction to the survey. The survey ran from October 12th to November 13th. We opened it up for initially 3 weeks. We extended it by another week to allow additional people to participate. At the end of the day, we had across the entire district and our ANC, 2,836 respondents. In our ANC, we had 2,297 respondents. This was by order of magnitude, the largest survey that has ever happened in the ANC. Arguably, it's one of the largest surveys that's happened by an ANC in the district. I asked ONC Director Kent Bays about that, and certainly in the last year or so, it's the largest. The importance there is that when you do a survey of the sort that we did, which was an open survey for all community members who wish to participate to take it, you want to have the broadest possible participation, of course. We decided against doing a random sample survey, which those of you that are familiar with survey research know that the way those are done, you define a target population that is representative of the overall population, and you just survey that group of people. So for a population of 15,000, which is roughly what we have in ANC 34G, we would have surveyed 250 to 300 people to be represented, statistically valid. However, given that this is a community engagement exercise, given that we wanted everyone to have an opportunity to have a voice, to be heard on this survey, we open it up to everyone. So that means then that you take a look at who responded. You take a look at that by way of any number of demographic variables, age, and so forth that I'll show you here. But just keep in mind, that's the nature of the survey. Another point of comparison, I think, is illustrative. In 2019, when the district, the Office of Planning, did a district-wide survey in support of the Housing Equity Report, that's the report that some of you have read that established the sort of baseline for increasing affordable housing across the district. The survey asked people in the district where they thought affordable housing most needed to be. Ward 3, our area here, was identified as an area where additional affordable housing needed to go. That survey was open for 3 months, not one. It was promoted by all of the ANCs, social media by the district, and everybody in the district could take the survey. It had 2,700 respondents. We had 2,836. So it puts this in a bit of context. Something I mentioned last time that I'll reiterate here. When you think about a survey and you think about the people that are taking it, think about it as a conversation they're having with us, those on the commission who fielded the survey. It took on average 11 to 12 minutes to do the survey. So think about 2,297 conversations that were happening across our ANC for 11 to 12 minutes. And it puts in perspective the community feeding back to us on the commission their views and their preferences about the proposed redevelopment of this place. Okay. So the survey, for those of you who took it, you know there was an initial battery of 8 questions that were demographic in nature. You can look up on the screen and see what those are. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. These were questions that identified age, and they identified the type of housing people lived in, whether folks rented or owned homes. You will see in the survey when we get into age and other areas that overall, this survey represents, again, the people who took it, and the people who took it skewed slightly older, more female than male, more homeowner than renter, more white than African-American or other minority. So when we talk about a survey and the coverage, keep in mind, the survey is not itself going out and grabbing people. We obviously promoted it. People chose to take the survey. So it's the respondents that we refer to here, not the general population. It's the people who took the survey. And again, you can see the gender preference, the gender indication, more female than male. You can see whether people identified as Hispanic or Latino. And you can see the race. So in our ANC, the population here is about 9.5, 10% African-American. And on the survey, we had 4.67, nearly 5% African-American. That's an indication of an underrepresentation in the survey of the African-American population in ANC 34G. And so we're trying to be clear about whom the survey represents. Again, it represents the people who took the survey. So the survey was about 2 big things. essentially getting your views and preferences concerning the proposed redevelopment. We wanted to be sure that we developed a questionnaire that captured key areas of concern that people have had about the proposed redevelopment and also captured their preferences for the redevelopment so as to be able to inform DEMPED, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, in their formulation of the request for proposals that will go to prospective bidders for the project. So those two big objectives, capture key areas of concern and get criteria to inform the RFP. So the first questions on the survey are in these key areas of concern. And the biggest key area of concern, of course, is around whether people support what the city is proposing to do. And you can see on the survey, this is now for all survey respondents. This is not parsed by people who just live in the ANC. So here, what we do, we take a look at the people who said that they supported the proposed redevelopment. It's about 40%. The people who say that they only support redevelopment of the community center and library, including the option of renovating the existing facilities, you can see it's 47%. The people who say they do not support any development at all, that's 9%. So on this survey, on this question, it's 57 to 40% of the population of those who took the survey, including our ANC and those outside our ANC. 57 to 40% say they're essentially opposed to the redevelopment. On other questions that were important and were difficult questions concerning surplusing, and then looking at allocating, establishing priorities across the different elements of the proposed development. You can see on the survey, on terms of those who support surplusing, 32%, and those who oppose surplusing, 59%. When we take a look at the priorities across the 5 major elements of the proposed redevelopment, community center, the library, open and green space, housing, affordable housing, and parking. We asked people to take 15 points and assign those points across those 5 different elements. And when they did that, their order of priority was as follows: the library, the community center, open green space, housing, affordable housing, and parking. Now, the reason this question is important is that we wanted multiple ways for people to approach the issue of the proposed redevelopment. We wanted to give people different ways of looking at it and different ways of responding. So we're taking a look at the responses in their totality, not one simply in isolation. We can walk through other aspects of the survey. I think Chair Gore, we probably want to get to questions fairly quickly. We have, of course, on the survey, lots of questions concerning preferences for the redevelopment, preferences concerning indoor and outdoor amenities here at the community center, preferences for how people would be using the library. There were multiple potential responses. We asked people to select 7 for indoor and outdoor amenities, 7 uses of the library. And so the survey has rolled up and captured a wealth of information to provide to the city to help them inform the RFP. These responses are also in tandem with the survey that DEMPED did in February and March that had 1,692 responses also on preferences concerning the library and the community center. So we have a lot of information now that's available to the city to help them shape the request for proposals. And of course, those of you that participated in the sessions that were here on October 14th and 18th also recall there was an effort there to, with several hundred people, probably 300, 350 people participated in those sessions, also to gather more input to help DEMPED inform the RFP. So there was a wealth of information going towards that second major objective of the survey. On other important questions that we know the community has been concerned about, height of buildings. So we asked what would be the maximum height acceptable to people who took the survey. And you can see that 24% of people said just 2 to 3 stories, 25% of people said 3 to 4 stories, 18% of people said 4 to 5 stories, 60 feet. 70 feet, 8% of people said that, and 80 feet, 15% of people said that. When we roll all that up, about 67 to 70% across the all respondent survey and the ANC survey would accept a building that is 60 feet or lower, right? So in terms of gauging people's tolerance for height of the buildings, the survey captures that important information. I think I might stop there and just open it up for questions. Yeah.
Before we open it up to questions, let me get Commissioner Gosselin to read his resolution, and then we can have a fuller discussion about the survey and into the resolution. And I want to be mindful. No, it's just a highlight. He's not going to read the whole 10-page resolution. We're at 7:38. Okay.
Very quickly, this resolution has two purposes. One is to convey the results of the survey to the city, and the other is to give our best guess about what needs to be done in reaction to it. As Commissioner Sherman, who played a critical role in this survey, has said repeatedly, the survey results are one thing. How we treat them is a separate question. No piece of this draft resolution is agreed to by all of these commissioners. There are, for example, but I would just say that with regard to conveying the results of the survey, we mince no words. It says in paragraph 17 that the results are 60-40 against any housing or affordable housing at this site. So we mince no words about that. The question, and I think the controversial part about this resolution is what we do with those results. I believe that this resolution captures the center of gravity for this ANC. So this is not just my view, although I want to make clear, I do believe notwithstanding that right now, this survey, for all of its flaws, for all of the ifs, ands, or buts, does represent the view of this community. And that the city is likely to proceed, the city that controls this property is likely to proceed with a plan to put affordable housing on here. So the resolution says that the right course under these circumstances for the commission, and we believe for the community, and the one most likely to preserve the community's ability to influence development of the community center library, is to continue seeking to contribute to a solution to the city's affordable housing problem, including at this site. We reaffirm the positions this commission has taken previously. We call on DEMPED, and we spend a good deal of time on this, saying that whatever is built here has to address the concerns that were raised in the survey about open and green space, building height, and ownership. Let me just say, because I've already taken a good deal of heat for this draft survey, I think I come at this with three arguments. The first is a cautionary argument. Every decision, almost every decision you make in your life and I make in mine, but certainly every political decision is made in a context. The context here is that the context for me, as I arrived on this commission 3 years ago, was that the city had already set itself on the path to doing affordable housing and Rock Creek West, and including in this community. And the city had set itself on the path of doing affordable housing here. I believe, and I have said this repeatedly to people, the city treated this community let me just back up. These are my views. These do not represent all of the commission. The reason why I support this approach to the problem is that I believe that the city has treated this community terribly. I believe the small area plan was not an adequate discussion with this community. I believe that the process that we've been through over the past year, where suddenly in November of last year, the term surplusing was sprung upon us, was a terrible process. The question is, what do we do from here on? And the problem with saying no is that we walk right into the buzzsaw of the city's views on this subject. I think if we can keep pushing the issues of height, of green space, and of ownership, we will end up with a project that is reasonably acceptable to all. But I thoroughly understand that there's very divided opinion on this, including on this commission. So with that, I will proceed.
So let me invite community members. I will go online first. There's a couple hands online. If you want to address the commission or just speak your views on the survey or the draft resolution, please approach the mic. And online, we'll go with Stuart and then Steve Seelig. And for the sake of time, I'm going to ask that you try to keep your comments to about 1 minute to 2 minutes, just to get enough people in.
All right, thank you very much, Chairman Guard. First, I want to go back to Commissioner Sherman's summary and wonder why he was using the conglomerated say that included a whole lot of residents that are not part of ANC 34G, because when you exclude them from the analysis, as you posted on your ANC website, it makes the divisions and the distinctions sharper. The other thing is, I don't think you can say, as your paragraph 17, Peter, that the community is deeply divided. 60-40 in American politics is a landslide. So, I mean, that's a landslide that 60-40 is against this redevelopment with housing. And I guess the other thing, Peter, we've had a lot of conversations. Caving to the city, it would absolutely not be our approach in our household, because the buzzsaw we're facing is right out the window that I'm looking at right now with CVS and bread and chocolate and everything. That's where they're going to change my life. Giving up to the city, just giving up is not the right approach. We can find a better path. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Thanks very much, Lisa. Good to see you. So I am outside of this ANC, and actually it's precisely that issue that I want to speak to about this survey. And being at home, I get the benefit of being able to look at Google Maps, and I can see where I live, and I can see where people who are outside the ANC live. And I'll note that there is a whole busload of people who live quite a bit closer to the community center than I would say anybody in Mr. Sherman's ANC. Yet that ANC has resoundingly responded, much more, that ANC sub, whatever they call it, has responded resoundingly against this community center. And I would urge the ANC to think about the geography. I understand how we've set up our ANCs. I understand you believe that you have a representation authority over those who are within your single member districts, but gosh, gee whiz, there's a community center for Ward 3. It's my one point. I have a second point. One thing that's exceedingly distressing is this whole pronouncement that, yeah, we weren't going to go ahead and do a random survey, but you went ahead and did a survey, and the results that you got were virtually 95% single family dwellers, okay? Not apartment dwellers. You got very few responses from apartment dwellers, and apartment dwellers in Ward 3 is my understanding, that's 35% of the population. And the fact that y'all are not adjusting for that fact, and you have the data and could easily do that, is a misrepresentation of the support that this community center has in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do 2 speakers at the mic and then we're going back to, online.
Okay, thank you. So I'm honestly trying to, can you hear me?
Is that online?
Not on again?
Turn it on.
Turn it on off?
I don't see the little green light at the back.
It's on, it shows on. Well, it shows that it's on.
It's
It's
on.
on.
I can hear her online. I
Okay.
can hear her online.
Can you hear me now? Because we
Can you
saved
hear
guys.
online?
Yeah, so I think I'm just a little confused because it sounds like we did a survey. The majority, 60-40, opposed the plan. Many of us have been to numerous meetings. I think this is my 5th or 6th one. We've all expressed our views repeatedly. The majority of us oppose the plan, yet this plan keeps moving forward like this fast, this fast speeding train that none of us can stop. And I guess I feel like I'm in this real life scenario of green eggs and ham. We kept saying we don't want this housing development. We don't want it on a boat. We don't want it on a goat. We don't want it a box. We don't want it a fox. We don't want this plan. And yet now you have the actual survey results and you're going to override the community decision, the democratic decision, and say that we're okay with it. I honestly don't understand it. I don't know what we can do to convince you that we don't want it. I mean, tell us, what can we do to stop this if we really don't want it?
How does green eggs and ham end?
Pardon me?
How does green eggs and ham?
Because the
end?
point is we keep
How does the book
repeatedly
end?
say that we
Excuse me,
don't want
how does the
this.
book end?
I don't know how it ends, but I know that we feel very strongly and we keep repeating ourselves. And yet the train keeps going. You keep pushing this plan on us when we didn't want it. And now you
So-
want to override the survey.
So
Is that a
part,
fair result?
hang on a minute. So part of, I want to make sure that you understand is that you realize that the council voted on this. You realize like the SAP comp plan, this is all come to a council vote.
Okay. But
Did
if
you know
ask
that?
Our opinion, no, but if you ask
Okay.
our opinion, but then our opinion gets discounted or doesn't matter, then this has all
So-
been a futile
so-
exercise for all of us.
That is part of, I believe, what Commissioner Goslin was trying to explain in the beginning. This is through the council. This is happening.
Right, but why can't you tell the council that the community members or tell the mayor's office that we don't want this? Why is the resolution 60% are opposed, but let's go forward and let's tweak it around the edges?
Michael, you may.
Sorry, I want to go forward.
It's okay. It's okay.
Can I just point out that there are 2 points to this resolution. Commissioner Sherman and I disagree about many things, but I think he believes that at least with the conveying of the results of the survey, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Bruce, we convey those results. We don't mince words that 60-40, this community is against any affordable housing at this site. It is a separate issue what we should do. The question is that if we're right, the city's going to plow forward, and they're not going to plow forward very fast because they got the money problems right now downtown. But if we're right, they're going to plow forward. It's not an open and shut case what we as a commission should then do. Because if they're going to plow forward, we need to get a deal that gets the best balance between the community's interests and the interests of the city, given that for many people, that may be second best. In any case, that's the argument for
And
this
let me
resolution.
just also say in terms of the survey results, I don't believe the committee, you can tell me if you've heard this. The commission has never said that the survey results would be indicative of our policy position. We've never said that. What the objectives were of the survey were very clear, was to get the public opinion and then to ensure that we have something actionable for the community or for DMPED in terms of the RFP process. So I don't believe that I'm still talking. I don't believe that the commission, as long as I've been involved with the ANC as a commissioner and even prior to that, there's never one tool or one, point in time that we've taken one piece of the pie and that's what we go by. We have a whole slew of information that we've gathered, members, meetings with our single member districts, individual meetings. A lot of you all have sent in survey results. I mean, not survey results, but the what is it called? The feedback form to us, emails to us. We had listening sessions. We've had almost 3 years worth of input. So it would really be kind of, we would have to like really think about how would we forego all of that to a point in time survey at this present time. We're using all of that information to make our decision on this. And we can't discount everything that we've heard for the past 3 years. And I can also tell you, there's a lot of people that, are for it. 60-40, yeah, that's a split. But, even if it's a majority.
And all that stuff that came before.
Okay, let me just say this. Let me say this. Hang on a minute. Let me get the meeting in order. Because one thing I'm not going to do, and I will go on to another subject, I am not going to allow people to overtake the meeting. I'm not going to do that. We have a very hard time in this community, and I know this is a hot topic. We have been discussing and getting beat over the head, and we gladly take that whipping. But you all have to be respectful to us. I'm going to demand that. And we are respectful to you. We're going to listen to you. We have made a ton of adjustments to the community, and we're going to continue to do that until this process is closed. We're going to bend over backwards for you all, but I just ask you to give us some respect. Okay. So with that, Commissioner Nash, and then.
Yep. All right. But first, with respect to the survey, my understanding is about, and we should be proud of how many people took it, but my understanding is roughly 20% of the people in our community took the survey, right? Okay, so that means 80% of the people in this community did not take the survey. As a result, my view is we should be very cautious about even a 60-40 split. It's not an election. Okay, this was not an election. It was not a ballot initiative. It was a survey that 4 out of 5 people did not take. And we should not assume that because 60% of the people who took the survey feel one way, the 80% who did not take it feel the same way. Number 2, to focus only on affordable housing, I think misses the point of the survey from my point of view. I take the results of the survey very seriously when the results are overwhelming, because that tells me the chances of the community feeling that way are much higher than 60 when it's 60-40. And it's going to be very important to me, and I think to other commissioners, that we work very hard to preserve green space, look at building height, and other elements of that survey where the community spoke with almost a unanimous voice. And so that is my answer. Not going to do what 60% of 20% of the community want, then you're not paying attention to the survey. No, we're going to pay a lot of attention to that part of the survey where there really was a consensus and that can shape the development of the community center in a way that we have some data to support. We live in a democracy, not a surveyocracy.
And I'd like to get recognized after that, if I could.
When I was sworn in to be a commissioner, I took an oath down at the mayor's office, raised my right hand, and I swore that I will exercise my best judgment and will consider each matter before me from the viewpoint of the best interest of the District of Columbia as a whole. And I will faithfully discharge my duties, my said duties. And I intend in this conversation to represent the District of Columbia as a whole, which is my oath of office.
Go on. I'm gonna come back to Bruce. Go on, please be quiet, please. Go on.
I admitted ignorance. I have not read the full survey results report, but I wanted to just comment on the bar charts I just saw. I think there's some noise in the bar charts in that, for instance, the response rate on underground parking is really a subset of if we're going to have more affordable housing. The density will go up and parking should be provided to meet that density. Similarly, the question of whether we would use the parking is not the important part. We have parking at our houses. The important part is that increased density requires parking. And therefore, you've got two bar chart elements there, which should be linked somehow, but they're not. Similarly, some of your breakouts of individual preferences for how to use the facility, pickleball versus basketball, that's all outdoor domain. And you should find a way to cluster with larger headings, the categories that are outdoor, indoor, whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, just to comment a bit on what Commissioner Nash said. Obviously, ideally, everybody in the ANC would have taken the survey. But as surveys, as I indicated at the top, of this sort go, the response rate of nearly 20% is extraordinarily high. You're never going to get 100% of the people to respond to a survey. You're never going to get 50% of the people to respond to the survey. At some point, you obviously take a look at the response that you have and you assess it given who's taken it. We've been straightforward with respect to different parts of the community that are not fully represented in the survey. The other thing I would say is that this ANC, historically, ANCs across the city, understandably, it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, routinely make decisions based on 30 people showing up to a meeting, 40 people coming to a meeting. Rarely, if ever, is there an opportunity to have input from 2,297 people. So if we're talking about data-based decision-making or informing our decision based on data, I believe that this survey offers an extraordinary opportunity across all of the different aspects of what the commission has intended, including informing the RFP with the data that comes off of that. But on the huge questions that have been of concern to the community about the development itself, I believe the commission has to take those seriously into account.
Okay, let me go online to Corinthia, then Randy Speck, and I was going to say something. Go on. Corinthia Simmons, then Randy Speck.
Hi, I just want to thank Commissioner Zeldin for his point of that as ANC commissioners, you all should do what's in the best interest of residents in the Washington, D.C. Specifically. And I just want to point out, regardless of the survey results, I just want to remind the community and just remind everyone of history that there has been several instances in history when the majority has been against things that are in the best interest of people. So examples, people were against same-sex marriage. People were against women having the ability to vote. People were against overturning slavery. And so I just want people to remember that as public servants, we have to think about what's in the best interest of people, of human beings. So when we're thinking about what's best for people in Washington, D.C., we have to think about what's best for everyone versus 60% being against something that is going to be good for everyone in our community. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Randy Speck.
Yes, thanks, Lisa, very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. This is an issue that has been before the commission for a number of years, and I've been involved in those examinations of these issues. I've been involved in a lot of community meetings, and repeatedly, the commission has supported affordable housing at this site. And I think the resolution, the draft resolution that's before the commission, reflects very well that history. And it's very important, I think, for the commission to move forward on these issues as they have in the past, supporting affordable housing, because it's frankly the right thing to do in our community. I also subscribe to the comments that Jim Nash had and that Michael Zeldin had. Both of those are, I think, exactly on point. And to Peter Goslin's comments about the realities of the situation, and Lisa, you mentioned this as well. This is we're dealing with the commission, with a decision that has been before the council already. It's been before the mayor. The mayor strongly supports it. With that reality and within that context, I think the resolution that's been drafted is really quite good. And I would support the commission adopting that resolution, perhaps with some modifications that I have suggested to some of the commissioners. But I think you've done a really good job. The survey, I think, as Bruce suggested, the survey, I think, the survey is not perfect, however. No survey is ever perfect. And even the ones that are done professionally. So I think you did a good job of it, but decisions have to be made on a policy basis and in the context of all the things that have happened already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Gore, Brian Heilman, 25-year resident of this ANC area, Ward 4 resident served by Janice Lewis George. I find totally objectionable Peter Goslin's draft of this resolution because it does not fully impart the weight of the survey that was endorsed by this body in July and carry that directly to the city council. And I think that a cleaner version that doesn't include ANC Commissioner Goslin's views as directly would carry a better expression of the survey results to DMPD and to the mayor's office. We have as a recourse the ballot box, and of course we can all go and work to get recall signatures and try to recall Mendelson and try to recall Bowser. But the reality is we all want affordable housing. We just don't want to give away any part of our civic center in order to achieve that. There's a ball field at 41st and McKinley just around the corner. If we want affordable housing, why don't we surplus a place where we can build up 60 feet and not have any issue? Why don't we do it in other areas of Ward 3? Why don't we do it in Turtle Park, in Matt Fruman's backyard? Why don't we do it in places where taking a little bit of the real estate is no big deal? Because this is a very small community center that serves a lot of Ward 4 and Ward 3 residents. And I know from my perspective, yeah, maybe my next step is to go mount my recall process and oppose what is going on. But the reality is we're now 3 years away from the moment in time when a global pandemic was declared and the development community, including this body, moved forward under the cover of a global pandemic to put forward a plan that is not representative of this area at all. It is not representative of our views about what is best for the district as a whole. I would want to see 100% affordable housing from Nebraska all the way to Chevy Chase Circle and make affordable housing integral to this corridor, but not on public land where we don't need to give it away.
Lee?
Hi. I just have a problem with the resolution. I think, I believe that it's doing a disservice to the neighborhood and the people who took this survey. What I've heard from Commissioner Sherman is that, and from others, that the apartment building residents are not represented My understanding is they all got postcards like everybody else in this room did. They had an opportunity to speak and vote. Some of them, I guess, did, some of them did not. But the way the resolution is written right now, capitulating to the council and the mayor simply because we think it's going to go through or it's going to go through, I think the ANC needs to take a stand and say clearly, without all the other caveats that are in there, that the community has spoken. They do not want housing on this site. They do not want an 80-foot building on the site, and leave it to that. And if the mayor and the council disagree, that's one thing. But I think as the resolution is written, it can be construed as if the ANC approves whatever DMP PED is going to do. And I think it's cowardly not to stand up to the council and the mayor. Thank you.
I want to thank the ANC for turning out what I think is quite a good survey, neutral and specific. But I think it's positively Orwellian to invest the time, effort, and money into such a survey and then turn the results on their head. Because they don't conform with the ANC's narrative or individual commissioners' opinions. The center of gravity, as Commissioner Gosselin puts it, trying to find the center of gravity is akin to cutting the baby in half. A compromise betrays the majority of residents who answered the survey. I'm not afraid of the city's buzzsaw, their name calling, shaming, obfuscating, and offering a false binary choice for this place. That false binary being this place, this 1.68 acres for affordable housing or no affordable housing. And I would like to say that in other communities across the city, when people opposed inserting housing in the public space or putting it on top of public facilities, the city was beaten back. And that happened in Ward 5, Ward 2, Ward 7, Ward 8. I have a list here, but my phone went off, so I can't tell you. And finally, to use the council having okayed the small area plan, which did not actually become law because it was done after the comp plan was passed, and to blame it on past actions of the ANC, which this ANC has acknowledged went without sufficient community engagement, is, as the previous speaker said, cowardly. I mean, take responsibility. And I think we know that the responsibility is that some of you individuals simply have very strong opinions. You want to see them happen. Others are ambitious in seeking higher office. So I say to you, if you're representatives, which is what you are supposed to be as ANC commissioners, and that oath is not part of the statute says nothing about that. The statute says you are the voice of the neighborhood, and you are supposed to be making the neighborhood's voice, carrying the neighborhood's voice to the mayor, to the council. So, get a spine. Thanks.
Hi. I'd just like to read you something from the ANC's. My name is Liz. What's yours? Nice to meet you again. What the ANC's website says, the ANC has drafted the survey to understand your thoughts and preferences regarding this initiative. They will inform our official positions, which the District of Columbia is required to give great weight. Okay. I'd like you to follow the stricture that you put on your ANC website and accord us the deference that we deserve. You're our elected officials. You're my elected official. You're smiling at me, right? Represent us. Don't assume that because we've done it wrong before and gone along with what Commissioner Speck said, that the ANC has already said that it will do this affordable housing thing here. Admit that you were wrong. The community doesn't want it. Not here. The community does want affordable housing, but not on this spot. And it doesn't want this land surplus. And the resolution as it's drafted doesn't make that clear. It's equivocal, it's mealy-mouthed, it undercuts the survey, even though you say that you're sending forth the survey results in a meaningful way. You're not, because you're saying, don't worry about the survey because we think housing's going to happen and we want to have some control over how it happens. Let the district make that mistake and then let us go in and try to fix it. But don't give into it right away and just throw up your hands and go, okay, fine. It's a train that we can't stop, so we're just going to get on it. Let's try to stop the train, please.
Let me go to online, Patricia, then we'll go back to the mic.
I'd just like to add a little piece to this about surplusing of this public land that is our little space in this community that we've had for many years. The rumor going around my neighborhood, I live off Oregon Avenue in the Ward 4 section, 3-4, is that this is all a financial thing, that the District of Columbia is running out of money. And what they've just spent $33 million on a new library in another part of the city. And they just don't have the money to do this for us. I find that kind of a weak argument, but it's an interesting one. There are many libraries that have been redone, many millions put into them and whatnot. But in this neighborhood, we're getting something taken away. And that's what's bothering people. And we're wondering, really, what is there a backstory nobody knows about? That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Greg Schmidt. I could have saved you guys some money on the survey. I graduated from Wilson High School the same year the library became operational, and you don't need to do anything more than look at me to know that that library needs to be replaced. I'm here roughly representing a group of pro-affordable housing neighbors, call ourselves Neighbors for Housing Equity. It's an agglomeration of groups and people, none of whom are paid by any outside interests. And we are supporting the resolution, and we think it's the right way to go. I do have some concerns about the statistics that are represented. I don't think you can claim it's 60-40. There's a 10% out there that doesn't want anything. And you guys didn't go and ask them what would happen if they didn't get that wish. And you're assuming that 100% of them would have preferred to have the 2 buildings and no housing. And I don't think you can assume that. So it's not 60-40. And the demographic information shows that in almost every front, the survey is skewed in some fashion or another. And it's not just a little bit. On age, for example, it's about 50% more over 65s than are represented in the district. And you have the information, the ability to cross-tabulate those numbers and to link the demographics to find out how the people who, if it were a truly representative mix, would have spoken. And we can do that. You gave me the information. I got the raw data from the survey, but I haven't gotten the ability yet to figure out the software to do the cross tabulation. I understand you have that too, and that you might make that available to us so we could do the cross tabulation and make it available to everybody.
Do we have that, Bruce?
We have a limited number of passwords to SurveyMonkey, which gives us the access to do cross tabulations. There's other software that's available to do cross tabulations that we don't have. So, but we can talk about that separately.
Okay, but I think that's information that should be in there and should be in the report.
Right. But it also should be acknowledged that given the fact that you're working off of a non-representative base, extrapolating from that base to the broader population is methodologically problematic. It can be done, it is done, but there are issues around that I think we have to be mindful of. But we can talk about it separately.
But I think it's a step that needs to be taken. And I don't think we should rely on just the raw data. Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to go for about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to have to move on to the next topic. So if you guys can do a quick speech, that would be helpful.
This is going to be discussed at next week's meeting.
Yeah, that's why we're having a special meeting. Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank my next in line here. I had a back injury a couple of weeks ago. It's really hard for me to stand. And my friend here allowed me to sit down. So thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to the survey committee. I know this has been a tough road, and I really appreciate everything that this commission has done to provide the survey results and summarize them. I have a somewhat different perspective, I think, on these survey results than many of the people who've spoken so far, both for and against. I really think these survey results are far more favorable to affordable housing than we're recognizing here. If you look at the results carefully, they actually give more weight to housing and density than is apparent at first glance. For example, if you add up respondents' height preferences, those preferring heights greater than what's currently on the site, 60, 70, or 80 feet, or indicating no preference with respect to height, actually exceed those who support lower heights or for less. So this isn't clearly a vote for relatively low height, in my view. Similarly, if you look at affordable housing preferences, the sum total of those who prefer housing at some level of affordability is greater than those who prefer no housing. These results are not a clear no for affordable housing. And another example is question 17 on density. More than half of the respondents prefer something other than the current density. And so I think really, if you look at how, at where the inputs actually, how they add up, I think there's a lot more uncertainty here, and it's a lot closer to the 50-50 that everybody's been talking about. So in short, I'm sorry I failed to introduce myself. My name is Elizabeth Vaden. I'm a resident of this ANC of Peter Gosselin's district, and also a member of WIN Ward 3. WIN Ward 3 remains confident that the community does want to see that there is a substantial, at least equal number of people in this community who support affordable housing at the civic core. And I applaud the ANC for recognizing the complexity of this data and leaving the door open through this draft resolution for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes.
Okay. I will just speak to one thing then, and we can continue this before. I wasn't going to talk about the SAP process, but I will now, since you're relying on that. First of all along, with the SAP, you were like, we have to go along with it. Otherwise, the city won't work with us. Of course they would work with you. You're the ANC. They can't just ignore you. They wouldn't be holding a grudge saying, forget it, we're not going to do anything with you. So you wanted to cave on that. And this idea for you to say here, we had 8-month, 9-session information exchanges. You yourself told me the attendance was incredibly low. I think the only one that got much attendance was the Ward 3 vision presentation of their vision. And there was incredible pushback against what they were doing. And these information exchange sessions, it was all, now you have an SAP. What do you do? Community land trust. It's right here. How do we, nonprofit development. It was all, now that we have this, what do we do? Not a single one allowed people to speak up about whether or not they wanted housing here. And the ANC never did that. Instead of doing all these information exchanges, which I'm sorry, were kind of a waste of time. They were informative to you, but most people did not have the time or inclination to become experts on how to do affordable housing here. You could have been using that time to meet with your SMDs and trying to find out what the people in your community actually wanted to have happen and give people a chance to tell you the main question: do we add housing here or not? And I raised this repeatedly before the ANC, and I was told the CAC, which was a hand-picked group of pro-development people, that's the community. Our housing working group is the community. It's like you didn't even understand what the community was. You never gave people who did not want housing here a chance to voice their views. And I remember at the last meeting when you voted to approve or not approve the SAP. Mr. Zeldin was going to vote against it. Actually, you wanted to vote against it because you wanted your resolution, so the one they had. Randy shot it down. The ANC asked for the SAP. We can't now reject it. What was the point? It was a done deal from the very beginning. And now finally, this community is voicing its opinion about the central question, do you want housing or not? And you're just going to ignore it. And as for the SAP, you may say it's a law. Laws can be changed. Laws can be amended. They can be revoked. Finally, one more thing. Housing is important. All of Friendship Heights is going down. Every building, except there'll be one building left for WMATA. There will be over 1,000 housing units added, much more affordable housing than you're going to get here. I have it written down. Wardman, 72 units. Down at Wegmans, there's going to be 1,400 housing units. Okay. But secondly, housing isn't the only important thing in a community. Recreation space matters. A place for 75 kids to go to summer camp matters. A place for a preschool matters. Imagine this with an 80-foot tall building. The kids now are going to have an 80-foot tall building right next to them. It's like you may as well be in the inner city, which is not necessarily a bad thing if you want that, but I don't think that's what we want for our camps. Okay, so think about this.
Okay, I'll be really quick. First of all, I want to do a quick shout out to Bruce. I really appreciate his efforts. I feel that that is a person who went door to door and really got an indication of what the community wanted. All right. I'd rather not. I wanted to give a shout out to Bruce because I really appreciate the fact that he went from door to door to take the community's real temperature. And I think that that's a very important thing to do, especially if that's what the ANC represents as a community. And I do know the end of green eggs and ham. And in the end, he ends up eating it. But there are many people who think that maybe he only ate it and said he liked it because he was forced to. Because the people who were asking him repeatedly were very, very persistent. And I feel that you all have been very, very persistent in telling us that we should disregard what surveys say, that that's, this is really what's best for the community, that we really don't have much of a point. I do feel that you've been very persistent in telling us that. And in fairness, I wasn't here 3 years ago when this started, so I don't know exactly what transpired, but it seems like there weren't large numbers at that point. It seems like now there are large numbers. It seems that a lot of people were pushing this agenda forward, the mayor who has an agenda, the builders who have an agenda, other communities who seem to have agendas that come from other parts of the ward and say what they want to do. But now you're actually hearing a large percentage of the community speaking, and they have said that they don't want it, but you keep telling us, well, that's not really what the survey means. And, I mean, you can pretty much take anything and parse through it in such a degree to turn it upside down. It's that other woman rightly said, a little bit Orwellian. So I do think that you really should take the community's views into consideration. And the buzzsaw, the buzzsaw is not necessarily going to be what you said the buzzsaw was. At this point, the community who lives here feels that you're the buzzsaw. So you can help us out.
We are going to have time. Go on.
Hi, my name is.
You're tall, that was not an obscene gesture, it was just an attention.
Please try to keep your comments to 30 seconds or so. We have got to move on. I'm trying to get
I know we
everybody
do,
an
but,
opportunity to speak.
All right, so we as a community have waited for more than a year for this survey, patiently waited, hoping that the results would make a difference. We recognized that there was a small area plan, which was dominated by pro-development forces. We know that there were a lot of things that were done before, but we were hanging a lot of our hope on the results of the survey. When I saw the actual statistics come in, I was very pleased. A large majority, 60-40, are opposed to housing on that site. What I object to is the notion that you are going to disregard that
in light of things that have gone on before. This is a very important thing. 60-40 does not represent a divided community. It represents an overwhelming support of no housing on that site. We're not opposed to housing across Chevy Chase, just on that site. So I would recommend an amendment to number 17. It says that what I would say is the community is not deeply divided over housing at the community center library site, and then go on from there. It's not 60-40. If a presidential election were 60-40, it would be an overwhelming landslide. If a basketball game was 60-40, it would be overwhelming. I have other amendments. I think we lost the lead in certain parts of this, but I will sit down now.
Thank you. Jamie.
I'm Jamie Butler. I have lived in Ward 3 for 39 years. I am also a member of WIN Ward 3, and yes, we support affordable housing here at the site. A couple of comments. One is, I keep hearing the word community doesn't support affordable housing. I'd like to hear how we define community, because my community living in Ward 3 supports affordable housing. I think you heard from other people who are remotely involved here that they support it. You've heard other people say that you can parse and interpret the data from the survey in other ways, so that 60-40 is a simplification of the data from that survey. So I would just caution you to make it the be and end all. I would reinforce what Commissioner Gore said, that that's not the only data point that you are using, nor should you. It is one piece of an effort that has been going on for a long time. And regardless of whether other people in this room want to fold in that data, it should be done. It's the only fair way to do it. I also want to comment that this is the only public land in Ward 3. So you can say it could be built other places, but it's not affordable in other places. It's far more challenging. There are no other available sites, and public land is the precisely right place to do it. Nobody says that the city will sell the land. Surplusing is a really poor choice of words. Repurposing is probably a much better term. They will repurpose land. They can lease that land to a developer. So we are not necessarily losing our land at all. It will be repurposed for affordable housing. And I think continuing to say that we're selling off our land here is just an excuse for those people who don't want to see affordable housing in their communities. And I think I will stop there. And I want to thank you all too for the work you're doing. It's a challenging job, and you are trying to manage all of us.
Thank you. Okay, you're going to be the last speaker. We're going to have to move on to no, we can't. I'm sorry. We have to get out of this building by 9 o'clock. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. We have to get out of the building by 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So I have to, as chair,
make
at
this
some point, call it. Thank you.
I'll make
Okay,
this quick.
go on.
Kathy Ledin, 38-year resident. Peter, I read the draft resolution several times, very carefully. Way too long, way too confusing, way too much context. Nobody cares about the context. I don't know who your audience is for it. Is the audience DIMPED? Is the audience the mayor? Is your audience us? Is the audience the rest of the commissioners? You don't need to rationalize your opinion on that. There are two things that need to be done. You need to convey the survey data, the main results, the 60-40 and the other main statistics, and you have to put the commission's recommendations. I found it a defeating thing to read through that, and I read through it very carefully several times. It just way too long, 10 pages. Half of it was 10 pages, half of it was pretty much just rationalizing what you were saying. And it greatly bothered me.
Thank you. So let me just conclude. Thank you all. Actually, I took some notes. There's some good stuff. I will ask that you all also, if you have specific recommendations, and this goes for the commissioners as well. There've been no amendments that I've seen that have come towards Peter's resolution. The commissioners are have the ability to suggest friendly amendments. They also have the ability to put up a competing resolution. And if that's what commissioners want to do, I encourage you to do that, because that's what we do. I have done that myself. For the community, we do have the feedback form on our website. If you would like to submit public comments that we can take some, action to. I definitely appreciate you giving us feedback here, but that's another way that you can give us even more feedback. There were some suggestions that you all made to the resolution, and I appreciate those concrete suggestions. We're going to have another discussion on February. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. On December 6th at 7 o'clock, right back here. We are going to continue to work the resolution. Once it comes out and it's in draft format, it goes back and forth. So keep sending in your comments, keep sending in your feedback. And then the last thing, I'll just, make sure everybody knows whatever we come up with, we're going to stand by. We're not falling behind the council. We're not falling behind DMPED. We stand behind our resolution. So whatever form that takes, the ANC is going to stand behind it.
Commissioner Gore, just very quick before we move forward, I do intend to propose an alternative resolution, so it'll be forthcoming.
That's fine. Okay. So next up, we're going to go with Commissioner Nash, and we want to do the 28th Street bio retention.
For Commissioner Gosselin's
Okay.
So we're turning to bioretention basins and the green infrastructure proposal. This commission is has strongly supported the goals of improving water quality and tributary watersheds to Rock Creek and Potomac River. And we've shown that support by holding public meetings and hearings about the idea of installing bioretention basins. Before my time on the commission, there was an immense amount of interaction between DDOT and this ANC around the bioretention basins on Oregon Avenue and further back in the ANC. Unfortunately, the city sprang upon us the most recent proposal on September 7th. They informed us that they were considering taking about 3/4 of a mile of street curb and about more than 100 parking places for bioretention basins. We have taken feedback from many neighborhoods, and we have a series of resolutions that ask, could people in back step out into the folks, hey, Cheryl, Ron Kahn, could you just step out in the hallway? I mean, you're welcome to keep talking, but just step outside. Hey, Ron.
Folks in the back, you're actually disrupting the meeting. Thank you.
I've drafted a resolution that asks DDOT to reopen the comment period through February 1st. It's now closed. To have DDOT project managers come and explain to us their decision-making process in terms of location, size, and goals of proposed bioretention basins. And we've asked DDOT this draft resolution asked DDOT to investigate particular proposed sites, most importantly, including the 5300 block of 28th Street Northwest and the 5400 block of Chevy Chase Parkway. Okay, all right, we can add that. In any case, these are that's the draft resolution before us that I've written. Commissioner Nash has been dealing with the neighborhood in the 5300 block of 28th Street and has a separate specific resolution with regard to 28th Street, and you want to briefly describe that?
Yes, the DDOT proposed a 105-foot long bioretention pit for the 5300 block of 28th Street. That's just military. And
Oh, God.
oh,
Whoa,
wait,
wait,
I'm
wait.
sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't turn my mic on.
Okay.
The DDOT proposed a 105-foot long bioretention pit for the 5300 block of 28th Street, just south of Military. And there was a virtual unanimity on Jennifer and 28th Street that they did not want this. There's not enough parking there as it is. It's a 30-foot wide road. They get a lot of traffic from Military that then has to turn around. They sent this petition in. DDOT came back with another proposal that that cut it back 20 feet. It was not still, it was opposed by everyone. And so the neighbors have come up with an alternative plan that would allow for a 40-foot long bioretention pit on 28th Street. They'd rather have nothing, but we worked with them and they're okay with this 40-foot long bioretention pit. I have drawings and photographs attached to this resolution that spell out what the people there want. And we need to pass this tonight because DDOT's design decisions, they say, will happen on Wednesday. So
does anyone in the audience want to speak on the particular bioretention resolutions, either one of them? Approach the mic and go on. And then I see a couple hands raised online. We'll go to you guys next.
Thank you very much. My name is Chris Gracie. I'm from 5709 Chevy Chase Parkway. The proposals will directly influence our quality of life and our ability to park on what is only an 18-foot wide section of our street. Being that cars are 6 foot wide in general, we don't have a lot of space when anybody parks on there. And so in order to comply and compromise with the current rulings, I have come up with some areas between Patterson and on Chevy Chase Parkway between Patterson and Oliver Street that would, if not, meet or exceed the current plans for that entire area. Please do not build retention units south of Oliver Street on Chevy Chase Parkway. There is a flow to the city that exists. And if we're talking about building in this area, we're going to have to obey the laws of the streets in that Northampton is a two-way street. Oliver is a one-way street. It has a 40-foot section of that street that is not occupied by housing. It is all yard and would only eliminate one parking space and yet retain over 8,000 gallons a year of rainwater. And if we build up instead of out, we can retain more parking spaces that way. Also, the only place on Chevy Chase Parkway, south of Patterson, north of Oliver Street, that is possible to put a bioretention unit on there also has a 20 to 40 foot area that currently goes unparked in. So please look, I've sent pictures to Peter Lynch. You're Peter. Great to meet you. I'm Chris Gracie. Thank you so much for representing me. So this is of vital importance to our area because I've had neighbors, children who have had broken arms because of the horrible traffic that we can get on this street. So,
Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up.
no worries. So currently, I'd also like the resolutions amendments to include our triangle as square footage area for bioretention. It retains over 200,000 gallons of rainwater every year, and it should be included in our area.
Did you
It-
send that information
I
to
most
the
certainly
commission?
did. Peter's got it, and he's got visuals, and he's got, it's okay. As long as
Because
we
we're
can.
voting on it tonight. I don't have your information. I don't have any of that.
Oh,
This was sent tonight. I can send it on, and my next point was going to be to hopefully call on Veronique, who is going to add to what this gentleman is saying.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
we're gonna go in order of the people that have their hands raised, but I'm gonna have to go on to the next one. 'Cause we gotta get out of
Absolutely.
here.
I'll text you all the information or email it to you right now.
Okay, let's go with George, then David, then Veronique, and then Susan.
With Maddie's
I'm gonna
mom.
ask you all to make your comments pretty quick.
Yes,
George?
yes. Good evening, all. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, very clear.
My name is George Anhang. My family and I reside at 5315 28th Street. DDOT has proposed building 2 bioretention pits on the 5300 block of 28th Street, totaling 84 feet. And DDOT proposes putting 60 feet of those pits in front of a single residential property at 5315 28th. Those 60 feet would prevent any fire truck, any delivery truck, any school bus, any ambulance, any service vehicle from ever again pulling up in front of 5315. The obvious question to ask is, what's the need for a plan that imposes such an extraordinary and disproportionate burden on a family in our community? The answer is there is no need. If there were a need, DDOT surely would have told us what that need was. We've been in communication with them for literally months. But DDOT has never, ever articulated a need for a 60-foot pit or 84 feet of a pit to be placed in front of residential properties in the way that they would be here. And indeed, it is self-evident that there's no need for 60 feet or 84 feet of pits to be placed in front of 1 or 2 homes. It's self-evident that 60 feet or 84 feet can be split into smaller pieces and fairly and wisely distributed. The city has countless bioretention facilities that are much shorter than 60 or 84 feet. So let's be clear. This is not a situation where a compelling community need outweighs the needs of a handful of residents. No, this is a situation where families' critical needs are being sacrificed for nothing more than expedience and DDOT's convenience. That's shocking. That's grossly unfair. And I respectfully ask you all to take a strong stance against it.
Okay, thank you. Next speakers, I'm giving you 30 seconds. We've got to start wrapping up and get out of the room. So David?
Okay, I'm not sure that my comments will fit in 30 seconds. Other speakers were given plenty of time. I would like to take my time on this. So
Well, let me just say, let me say something, David. I really want to make sure everyone is aware, we have to be out of the room by 9.
Oh, I
We
understand.
have a lot of equipment to take down. So please just try to keep your comments as
I will-
short as possible.
I will try to keep it as short as possible.
Thank you.
So I have several objections to both of these resolutions. First, the resolution seeks an exception to the mandated notice of intent process, which has already been fully executed in a way that conforms to DC regulations. There was 30 business days. It was actually already extended 10 extra business days. There's nothing in the resolutions that identifies any non-conformance or regulations that have been violated. And so reopening the NOI comment period is wholly unjustified. The resolution, and we just heard this as well, that September 7th NOI was the first time the ANC was informed by DDOT about these facilities, but there was an August 24th, 2022 public meeting, and there was an April 29th, 2023 public meeting, which included maps that included all of the sites that we're talking about. So the public has known about these sites since April, okay? And there was a third public meeting in September 28th. So there've been 3 rounds of public meetings and review. Finally, I just want to say that these resolutions are based on resident-led testimonies given at the October 23rd ANC meeting, which contain numerous misleading and factually incorrect statements intended to garner opposition to DDOT's plans to install bioretention beds. I'll just highlight a couple of them. Okay. So one is about the width of the street. According to the roadway centerlines data set, the road's 32 feet wide, which is a standard width throughout the city. This here I'm talking about 28th Street. There's this comment about emergency vehicles not being able to access residences. Virtually nowhere in the district are you guaranteed parking directly in front of your residence, and yet emergency vehicles service everywhere in the district. So this is just false, okay? The other claim is that virtually all street parking is occupied at all hours of the day. I've been several times. I have never seen it occupied over 60%, okay? And finally, there's a statement about 28th Street having only 2 driveways for off-street parking, which is correct, but that fails to mention that there are 15 homes, or roughly half, that have alley-accessible private parking facilities. So if we're serious, as one resolution claims to be, about greening the district streets, that means converting parking spaces into facilities that promote climate change resilience and pollution mitigation, especially in the neighborhood with the highest household carbon emission footprint in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to have to move on to ANC Commissioner comments.
Gore, could we please hear from Veronique? She's been communicating with lots of her neighbors and has done a lot of research on this issue and has been waiting very patiently.
I can give her 30 seconds.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, go on, Veronique.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So we would just like, if you could add, the resolutions are great, but if you could add our block as well, the 5700 block of Chevy Chase Parkway to them specifically, we'd appreciate it. We have the same issue on 28th Street where the entire frontage of my home is covered by this, and I have the same concerns about lack of access to the home. I would also request just generally that we add to the resolutions a separate provision that every house where the entire or largely the entire frontage of the home would be affected by these, that they rethink that plan and not landlock entire homes. It's very disruptive to the home to be entirely landlocked. And I really do worry about access to emergency vehicles over these things because they can't walk over them. I'd also suggest that if we can add a resolution on requiring a parking study and a traffic study of Chevy Chase Parkway, and particularly a traffic study, because we really have very unique issues on this street, being like, you know, the right alongside of Connecticut Avenue, and we get a lot of overflow traffic, a lot of traffic from the to and from the school. So I think I kept it at 30 seconds.
Thank you.
Apologies if I went over. Thanks.
Yep. I appreciate it. Thank you.
How do you want to proceed?
We need a vote.
Let me suggest, in the interest of getting Commissioner Zeldin's vote on the umbrella draft resolution, I am willing to strike mention of specific locations out of paragraph 6. My suggestion is we vote on the umbrella resolution and then take up the specific 28th Street resolution.
Put a motion on.
Okay, the motion is to support with the friendly amendment from Commissioner Zeldin about paragraph 6, the draft resolution, the draft umbrella resolution about bioretention basins. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Do we really have any?
All commissioners in favor?
I'm
Any
sorry, is there going to
discussion?
be a chance to offer Veronique's comments into this resolution?
Well, the rewritten paragraph 6 says that we will take material from anybody who let's see, let me see if I can find it here. We will both receive this information and pass it along to the relevant DC agencies.
Okay, thank you.
I did have more
Any other
comments.
any other discussion, commissioners?
Just a quick question, Commissioner Goslin.
Yeah.
This particular draft reflects edits that I had sent you concerning maintenance issues. Okay.
I've accepted all your, yes,
Okay.
I've accepted all yours.
I call the vote. Commissioners in favor, raise your hand. I'm calling the vote now. Any commissioners opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
7-0.
No,
No,
6-1.
1-0.
Zach is against.
Okay.
Zach is opposed?
Yes. And Commissioner Nash, I will ask that you, move your resolution in immediately.
Yeah.
We are at 8:53.
Yes, so I would like to move that the commission support the ANC resolution regarding the construction of a bioretention pit in the 5300 block of 28th Street, which would allow for a 40-foot bioretention pit. Is there a second?
I second. Any quick commissioner discussion?
So
All-
I have a question, I have
Sure.
a discussion question, which is, have we determined that this proposed 40-foot compromises, your resolution calls it, will actually do the task that a bioretention facility is designed to do? Meaning they started at 100, they said we could go to 60 and have it still be functional. Now you're at 40% of the original thing, will it still be functional?
Most of them around our area are in a 40-foot range. Most of them are
I mean-
nowhere near that large.
But we determined, Jim, have we
Mhm.
determined that from DOE that 40 will still work on that block?
With all due respect, we have not been briefed on any of this stuff.
That's
Well,
true, too.
So that's one of the problems we've got here.
Yeah.
And part of the resolution, and certainly the umbrella organization says that they should come before us and explain why the hell they put them where they put them and why the hell they put them at the size they put them.
Right.
So
Oh.
what's the urgency of this one?
The urgency that the urgency of this is that DDOT has told me that their final decision on 28th Street will be made on Wednesday.
Right. We only have 228. I call the vote.
As opposed to-
Commissioners,
as opposed to all the others in the entire area, they'll be done at a different timetable?
I call the vote. Commissioners, all those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed?
I know, Steve. Look, before you.
Abstentions? 1, 2. Okay, everybody, please, I'm calling the meeting adjourned. I'm sorry, we have to clear the room. Please take your
chair and
chairs.
put them up there.
Put them up there.
What was the vote on mine? 4-2-1?
4, 2 abstentions.
4 and 2 abstentions.
I mean, sorry, 2 opposed, right?
No.
Did you oppose or abstain?
Just abstain, because I just don't
Abstain.
know the answer to the
2 abstentions.
I want to make sure that it passes,
Yeah.
but I just don't.
Yeah, 4 in favor, 2
So
abstentions.
it passes. It passes.
That's only 6 votes.
No, 4-2-1.
Yeah,
Zach,
Zach opposed.
Peter and I.
Okay,
abstained.
everybody get your stuff out. Zach, reimbursement.
Jim, just so you know, if it wasn't going to pass, I would have voted in favor.
Hi, Andy Schoenbach. Long time no see.
Hi, Stuart. Good comments before.